Occasionally, an event comes along that captures the imagination of a community. The Paris to Ancaster bicycle race, or as it's affectionately known, the P2A, is one of those events, at least within the cycling community. It takes place in the heart of Ontario, in an area that's thriving with cycling activity. There's a few aspects of this race that make it particularly popular within the wider cycling community. It's an off-road, on-road race, which means it has something for everyone and attracts road cyclists and mountain bikers alike. It's a mass start, all-category citizen event, which means it attracts recreational riders just out to push themselves to get across the finish line, right up to the serious elite racing athletes getting out for the first time in the early season. It's a tough race, but it's also a fun race, and anyone I've spoken to who's done it tells me that it always leaves them with a sense of accomplishment. That's fairly obvious just from the sheer number of riders who keep coming back year after year. Who are the people that don their bike gear in early spring to ride through muddy fields and along wet country lanes and trails? Let's find out. It's easy to see the excitement amongst the riders lined up in the start corrals, but who are these people and what possesses them to come out in droves to ride through the early spring mud on their bikes? Karen is typical of the type of rider doing the Paris to Ancaster. She works with the regional government in Newmarket, Ontario, and this will be her third P2A. And this year, she's coming with some friends. We met up with Karen to chat about the race during the winter months.
The Paris Ancaster race is different things for different people, but certainly for me it is a lot of fun. It's challenging when it needs to be challenging. There's a lot of single track, double track, there's open road, there's a lot of support from the people. Everyone you meet has a wonderful attitude. Everybody's there because they want to be there, and it's like a big family. It's a lot of fun. I usually go with a group of friends. This year I'm going with 2 friends, and we will try to ride together and stay together, although you do meet a lot of people along the way. I found in the recent years, people I work with, people that are in my community, people that I've met from past years, you meet them all there. A lot of times it's a very big social before and after the race, and you tend to meet new people along the way. There's lots of families, there's lots of single riders, and lots of groups, so it's a wonderful event. I don't do any specific training, however it is a nice season first ride of the year for me. What we do is I have a bunch of friends, and we spin all winter long in a friend's basement. I participate in a lot of organized events, triathlons, running events, organized hiking, and Paris to Ancaster certainly is one of the better organized events that I have done. It's a wonderful organization, right from registering to showing up at the event to the bus, getting our bikes from the race start and the finish as well. It's wonderful from beginning to end. Wonderful experience.
Mike Dennis has been racing bicycles since he was a youth and raced for many years in the elite category. He's a bike mechanic by trade and still races competitively, specialising in mountain bike cross country. This will be his 15th year riding the P2A.
I use the Paris to Ancaster race to test my winter fitness, to see how effective my training has been. And I also use it to meet up with a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in quite a while. Paris to Ancaster can be ridden on a few different types of bikes, mountain bike as well as cyclocross bikes. I've had success on both types. For the majority of people, I would definitely recommend a mountain bike. That will lead to a much more enjoyable experience because of the addition of suspension.
Events like the Paris to Ancaster have become more and more popular over the past few years, and today there's a much wider community involvement in these type of races than ever before. Former Olympian and Canadian mountain bike champion Seamus McGrath was at this year's event and talked about the rising popularity in citizens races like the P2A.
These days people are getting more into healthy lifestyles, and you could even say it's not even the cycling public, it's just the general public that's getting interested in these kind of getting involved with cycling. So out in BC, there's 7,000 people registered for the Whistler Grand Fondo, and those aren't cyclists. They're just people who caught wind of this new movement, and they want to try it. Cycling, as you know, is a cool way to see things and to meet people, and it's just a cool way to get around. People wanting to be finding new ways to be fit. So just people getting into this sport just because, hey, cycling looks cool, I want to try it. So I think it's an amazing movement, the whole Grand Fondo movement, and races like the Paris to Ancaster that are welcoming the public by offering several distances, and they're not elitist like most racing is. So I think it's you got to applaud guys like Tim Farrar and the organizers of these new events that are really helping cycling take off.
Organising a race like the Paris to Ancaster is no small task. In fact, the work of organising next year's race begins the moment this year's race is over. The volunteers, landowners' permissions, equipment rentals, the OCA sanctioning and registration, the website, the sponsors, the facilities and first aid, and of course the police and other authorities have to be arranged well in advance. The Grand River Conservation Authority and the local municipalities require careful planning for the event, ensuring safety and to minimise traffic congestion. In early January, you'll find Tim Farrar, John Thorpe and other members of the organising team out on the course, checking for potential issues and making contact with the private landowners. The race also spans 2 police jurisdictions, meaning that both the Ontario Provincial Police and the Hamilton Police play a big role in the road safety for the event. One of the things that P2A has enjoyed over the past years is lots of community support, helping to make the experience for the riders and fans more enjoyable. For 18 years, the Childs have been entertained by the race passing their driveway and into the Copetown mud chute which borders their property. They provided an interesting perspective on the race.
Well, we have seen this race over a 17-year period, and it has grown exponentially over those years, from a very small, almost informal bunch of people out for a interesting ride in the country on a nice day to what it's become today. And through those years, the number of people that have joined in the race is tremendous.
What has remained consistent is the camaraderie between them, a feeling of cooperation when they come to bumps or the top of this rather rough ride down the hill here on Mineral Springs. The front runners are rather like greyhounds following a lure, absolutely focused. Then gradually, a feeling of relaxation becomes more and more evident until you reach the last wave of racers coming through. These people are relaxed and just enjoying the ride. They have their families along and they're having great fun. But that is evident in everybody, from front runners to the very last people. Exhausted though they may be, they're still happy that they're competing and following the course.
When the race reaches our area, there's always high excitement because I don't know if rumors abound or whether some of the people that scouted out earlier tell them that there is a major challenge ahead, but they come past our house and usually someone calls a bump ahead, and everyone falls back into a single line because there are rocks behind us here where they have to squeeze through. Things don't look too bad at that point, so if you haven't been past here previously, you may think there's nothing much to worry about, but then it disappears into some mud, and then mud gives way to almost a bog, and
sliding stones, brambles, roots that stick out.
as they almost sink into the mud. But they make it through, even if they have to walk it.
But it's great fun watching them go by, the different styles of riding, the different people, shapes, sizes, ages, you name it. It's just generally fun because the whole event is very good humoured.
It's interesting to listen to Tim and John talk about how the race began and how it's developed over the past 18 years.
Yeah, we started thinking about a race along the lines of what they have in Northern Europe, the classics. Paris-Roubaix being the most famous of them, with rough roads in their original condition as they were 100 years ago when the races started. And there are tribute races to Paris-Roubaix all over North America, all over the world really, but I haven't seen any that start in Paris. So that was our original hook, that we started the race in Paris. And the substitute for cobbled sections of lanes would be the rail trails and dirt roads and farmlands.
And being in Brant County, Paris, a farming community, still has a lot of good gravel roads that we can use, and a few abandoned rail lines that Tim was able to figure out where they went and link between the gravel roads.
I think the weather's had as big an impact as anything else on how the race turns out.
Well, the weather has sort of mirrored the weather in Paris-Roubaix a lot of the time.
The problem in cycling has always been that there isn't a mass participation event where the average guy can compete with the elite. It happens every week in 10K running and in marathons.
Yep.
And in cross-country skiing. And I think what we were going for in the early years was more of that experience, like a cross-country ski locket with the fastest guys out front. Everybody does the same course. You got a benchmark of how fast you really are because the guys at the front are world class.
Yep.
Some of the challenges over the past 17 or 18 years have been simply the growth of the race. We've had 4 or 5 different start lines as we've outgrown each venue. I think the challenges are keeping the course interesting by periodically adding new sectors. And we've been really lucky with the local farmers voluntarily letting 2,000 people ride across their farms once every spring.
The satisfying thing is watching the growth of the event, the amount that people enjoy it, being out in the community, running into people who have ridden Paris Ancaster or have a relative or a husband, wife or whatever who's ridden it, and positive things they say about the event. When we market the event, we visit a lot of bike stores around Ontario, and I usually do it in the early part of the year, just as spring's starting to come. And it really is the kickoff of the season. It's nice how everybody's excited that the Paris Ancaster guy is showing up with his brochures, because that means that the biking season is about to start.
Secrets to our success is that we've had slow controlled growth.
Yeah.
We've grown by never more than a couple of hundred riders a year at its fastest, and some years it held steady, but most years it grew by 100 to 200 riders.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you can fix small problems easily for the following year. It's not overwhelming, but I think going forward for another 20 years, land access and roads are going to be our
Big challenges.
challenges.
Yep. We've had a ton of people involved in the race over the years, and we've had a lot of great volunteers who've been involved year after year. They really have their experience and their combined experience are what make the event run as smoothly as it is, from our people who lay out the course or clear the course for us, the registration people, the setup people that we have, the people who move the bikes, and the riders before the event and after the event as well. All of those people contribute to the success of the event and really contribute to it running as smoothly as it does. And I guess Tim and I would also be remiss if we didn't thank our families for putting up with us doing this throughout the year.
The other secret to the success of the race has been a real stable group of sponsors that we've had for years and years and years. Some, I think, since the first year. And we've got private landowners that we've crossed their same stretch of land every single year of the race. So if they hadn't come on board in year one, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Wouldn't be here now.
With the wide variety we have in the race, I think we get a lot of different levels of preparation. The top-end athletes, this is the top of their season, at the start of their season, so they're really starting to gear up for the competitive season. They're coming into the event in pretty good shape. There's a whole lot of other people who really look at this as one of the high points of their year, and they really want to be ready to blast at the start of the year. So they'll be training, they'll be spinning throughout the year. We have a 10-week training course available at our website, parisancaster.com. brought to us by Coach Chris, and some of the people will use that, and a lot of them maybe their first chance really training for an event. And so the 10-week program is divided into different ability levels, and you can pick the ability level that you think you're at and use it to prepare to have your most successful Paris Ancaster race ever, whether it's your first or your 10th event.
My name's Greg Ross and I'm the sport coordinator at the Ontario Cycling Association. I am here today on location for the first day of registration. Our role here is some exposure for the organization, but the main thing that we offer is the registration and the timing and the insurance for the event. Personally, I'm always excited to be involved with such a great event like this, where we're combining licensed riders in the Ontario province along with unlicensed riders. I think this race especially offers a unique opportunity for people to learn a bit more about the sport of cycling in Ontario, and who knows, hopefully a couple of new riders, young and old, will come out of this event and go on to races in Ontario nationally and internationally.
Southwestern Ontario is home to the race, in a region between Hamilton, Brantford and Cambridge that's rich with cycling activity. It's a relatively flat area made up mostly of farmland, but there's usually a relentless wind which more than makes up for the lack of major climbing. There's also a variety of other challenges along the way. The route itself has remained virtually the same over the past 17 years, with a few minor changes to the course each year dependent on local conditions and usually only affecting the sections on farms or private land. The race sets off from the Green Lane Sports Park on the edge of Paris and only a stone's throw away from where the first telephone call was received from Sir Alexander Graham Bell in 1876. Almost immediately, riders joined the rail trail of the old Lake Erie and Northern Railroad, which now is part of the Trans-Canada Trail. Riders follow alongside the Grand River for about 10 kilometers before turning east, crossing Highway 24 and passing just north of the village of St. George, the starting point of the 35k race. Riders will struggle through some very challenging country terrain before swinging south and through the small village of Harrisburg, which marks the halfway point of the race. The course again joins our rail trail for several kilometers before swinging south and almost reaching Highway 403, the main highway between Hamilton and Points West. The course then turns east again and through the village of Jerseyville. From here, there's a long slog through farmland and country roads until the riders cross Highway 52, where the terrain becomes much more hilly. It's then down through the historical hamlet of Mineral Springs, a settlement which has been around since 1840, before hitting the final tough few kilometers, including the infamous Martin Road and into the grounds of the Ancaster Sports Park. Riders will have to watch for some key challenges along the way, starting at about 10 kilometers in, where the course turns off the first rail trail and up into some rough farmland. Then about 18 kilometers in, after crossing Highway 24, the course goes into several kilometers of difficult single-track off-road sections. At about the 51 kilometer mark, the riders hit the infamous Coketown Mud Chute. This is a deep muddy cutting which always seems to be wet and virtually unrideable for many. Then finally, the last few kilometers consist of an old road bed and finishing with a half-kilometer gravel road climb with an average grade of 11% up to the finish line. A formidable finishing stretch which is always a spectacle and definitely a spectator favourite.